Chapter 66-29. If it weren't for this by Luchuan, we wouldn't have wasted so much time. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the demon slaughter competition has passed. I don't know if our points are enough. Xiaohei couldn't help but sigh. In order to save Bai Qingli, they had been delayed here for several days. There was only a month of competition left in total, and there wasn't much time left. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. I reckon that this guy came straight here as soon as he arrived at the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range. After staying here for so many days, I'm sure he has a lot of points. Let me take a look. She slowly raised the identity card. As she glanced at it, her gaze immediately changed. She couldn't help but take another look. Only when she was sure that she wasn't mistaken did she completely believe it. This guy's points are more than twice mine. No wonder he was able to take first place every year. This speed is very abnormal. Xiaohei was also delighted. This guy also knows how to make the best use of everything. He didn't waste these points. Master, we've made a lot of money this time. Even if they hadn't been delayed these few days and were hunting monsters first, it was likely that their points wouldn't be more than this. In the cave, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Baichen and everyone else were fighting monsters. Only by killing the monsters could they pass through this passage. However, everyone was determined to press forward. Once they were injured, they would temporarily return to the tunnel to recuperate. When their injuries had recovered a little, they would start fighting again. Every time a monster was killed, they would receive a considerable amount of points as a reward. Outside the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range. Look, that number's ranking has risen again. It's so strange. Could it be that this year's powerhouses don't use their own names and instead use numbered identity cards? A few days ago, these numbers began to hover around the 10th place. Sometimes they would appear on the rankings and sometimes they would be suppressed. Later, these numbers began to climb up bit by bit and never disappeared. Especially that number 002. Originally, it was always 001003 or something like that on the leaderboard. But on that day, for some reason, this number 002's points suddenly skyrocketed and directly jumped to first place. This is too shocking. Usually, the first place has always been by Qingli, but now it has been snatched away by someone else. This is really surprising. Everyone looked at the rankings and couldn't help but be surprised and exclaim in their hearts. This kind of scene was something that had never happened since the beginning of the monster slaughter competition. Now, they really hoped that the demon slaying competition would end soon so that they could see the true appearance of these cultivators with serial numbers. Bai Qingli actually withdrew from the monster slaughter competition? Bai Luchuan was extremely surprised when he heard the news. He had spent a lot of money to send people to kill him, but he hadn't expected this fellow to escape. What a pity. This news is already confirmed without a doubt. Bai Qingli did withdraw from the monster slaughter competition, and when she returned, she seemed to have suffered serious injuries, so she chose to withdraw. Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes. Seriously injured? They actually didn't see such a good opportunity. What a bunch of trash. Young Master Bai, now that Bai Qingli has withdrawn from the competition, no one will be able to surpass you in points. Chapter 66-30. Go and investigate this matter for me. Since those three fellows have the ability to severely injure him, they shouldn't have let him live. Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes. This time he had given a death order. Bai Qingli's strength had increased too quickly in the past few years. It was too far away for him to catch up. However, in order to surpass him and become first place, he had sent out more and more subordinates. Most importantly, if this continued, this fellow would probably break through to the elementary immortal realm. Once this fellow successfully broke through, he would have no hope of surpassing him. Young Master, could it be that the three of them lost their lives after seriously injuring Bai Qingli with all their might? The man voiced his guess. Hearing that, Bai Luchuan frowned. That shouldn't be possible. I fought with Bai Qingli a while ago, so I have a good understanding of his strength. If the three of them join forces, their strength will definitely be able to suppress Bai Qingli. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sent them. Either something happened or Bai Qingli is deliberately hiding his strength in front of me. At the end of his sentence, Bai Luchuan's voice became abnormally solemn. If Bai Qingli had already discovered his actions, then things would really become troublesome. Young Master, Bai Qingli has always trusted you. You have never revealed any flaws. I believe that it's impossible for him to deliberately hide it. Bai Luchuan nodded slightly and felt more at ease. That's right. However, if something really happened, we have to investigate thoroughly. We can't let anyone find any clues. Yes, young Master. Master, I've calculated the time. It's only a few days until the end of the demon slaying competition. It's time for us to walk out of this maze. Xiao Hei carefully recalled the time after entering. Initially she wasn't too worried, but after these days of wandering she realized that the maze was ridiculously huge. Their speed along the way wasn't considered slow, but they still hadn't reached the exit. Staying here made it impossible to determine how far the exit was. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and subconsciously looked at her identity token. The points on it were much higher than when she first came. Although she didn't know what kind of name such a point would be, according to her judgment, her ranking shouldn't be too bad. Save me, save me. Suddenly a scream came from the front. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Hei's expressions changed, and they quickly rushed over. This is Gong Jun's voice. Gong Jun's voice was very recognizable. It was already very difficult for this guy to make it this far in the maze. Now that he was asking for help, he must have encountered something that he could not solve. The man and the beast quickly rushed forward. After staying here for so long, they were already very accustomed to the dusky environment, and their speed had increased a lot compared to before. Gong Jun, what's wrong with you? At this time, another low and magnetic voice sounded, followed by Gong Jun's surprised voice. Boss, you've come? Thank the heavens, boss. Now that you're here I feel much more at ease. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard the familiar voice, the corners of her lips couldn't help but rise. After walking in this labyrinth for so long they finally met. Chapter 66-31. Madam, you're here too. Gong Jun turned his head in surprise. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, the smile on his face became even wider. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Your voice is so special. I could hear you crying for help from far away. What happened in the end? After Di Beichen saw Bailey Hongzhuang, a trace of tenderness flashed across the depths of his eyes. The corners of his lips curled up into a faint smile, and his temperament suddenly became much gentler than before. Right in front, there's a demon with terrifying strength. I was discovered as soon as I appeared. That terrifying aura directly locked onto me, making it impossible for me to hide. I also tried my best to quickly turn around and run, and only then did I run here. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Gong Jun's feet. Until now this guy's feet were still trembling. Could be seen that he was really frightened just now. You were frightened by that demon to such an extent. Could it have reached the elementary immortal realm? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was complicated. She had some understanding of Gong Jun's character. Although this guy was usually startled, he was not someone who liked to exaggerate. If just its aura made Gong Jun feel so terrified, then this demon's strength was really shocking. I don't know either. Gong Jun's expression was somewhat complicated and awkward. I was forced by its aura as soon as I appeared. I didn't even look at it before running over. Fortunately, this tunnel was relatively narrow, and that big guy couldn't pass through at all. Otherwise things would be troublesome. Boss, I think we should change our path from here? Gong Jun suggested. Di Beichen thought for a moment. We've been going out along the original path. If we change our direction from here, it will be really difficult to get out. Why don't we go and see what kind of monster it is? Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. At the same time she sent a message to Beichen. Beichen, you must have seen the demons here before. Some of them are actually the same species as the demons I summoned. I've noticed that as well. Di Beichen nodded slightly. It said that these monsters only appeared a few years ago. The Chaos Ring must have a lot to do with this plane. Do you think the Chaos Ring is something from this other plane? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked doubtfully. Di Beichen muttered to himself, that's not impossible. It's just that most of the monsters in this plane are of the dark attribute, and almost none of them are of the light attribute. The primordial Chaos Ring has recognized you as its master, but this attribute, isn't it a little strange? It's indeed a little strange. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were deep and serene. This was also a question she had never understood. If that was really the case, then the Chaos Ring should have chosen any cultivator of the dark attribute to be its master, and not her. But the palace in the Chaos Ring is originally black and white. I didn't quite understand it at first, but now I suddenly understand. Perhaps the master the Chaos Ring is looking for has the dark and light attributes. There's a chance I really want to go to this plane to take a look. Maybe I can solve the mystery of the Chaos Ring. Chapter 66-32. When Gong Jun saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looking at each other without saying anything, he couldn't help but feel puzzled. I say, boss, madam, even if we haven't seen each other for a while, you don't have to be so lovey-dovey in front of me, right? How am I supposed to live like this? Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't continue this topic. In short, after coming to the upper realm, they discovered the strange mystery of the Chaos Ring. There was something fishy about it, but they didn't know when they would be able to solve it. Gong Jun, according to the mark in your book, how far are we from leaving this maze? Gong Jun frowned and said, Boss, look. I also feel that the monster slaughtering competition is about to end. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid it will be too late. I found that the fastest way to leave is to the left of the path I took, so I came here. Di Baichen looked at the map in the book and his eyes lit up. According to the contents of this book, as long as we can defeat the monster inside, we can directly leave the maze? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be surprised. Really? Could it be that this monster is the strongest existence in this maze? Although this kind of situation happened relatively rarely, it did indeed exist. Whenever such a situation occurred, the monster blocking them would definitely be the strongest one. In this way, everything that Gong Jun described made sense. It seems that if we want to leave now, this is the only way. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows slightly, and a trace of seriousness appeared on his handsome face. Speaking of which, it's strange. Looking at it carefully, I found that the path that Baichen took was actually so complicated. It was a circle. Bailey Hongzhuang compared the path that she took. Back then, she only felt that every path was the same, but now that she carefully compared it, the path that Baichen took was really complicated. In comparison, the path that Yen Che and the others took was more suitable. According to the time, they should not be far from the exit. As for her, she had delayed a lot of time because she was treating Bai Qingli, so she only came here now. Indeed. Di Baichen's brows were filled with surprise. I didn't notice this before. Boss, why don't we go over and take a look? Gong Jun suggested. We still have to go out and find Zhong Yiluan first. That guy hasn't given us his points yet. Seeing that Gong Jun was most concerned about points at this time, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. As expected, you don't wake up early without benefits. We spent so much effort to succeed. How can it be gone just like that? Gong Jun had a serious expression. Let's not talk about anything else. In any case, we definitely can't let Bai Luchuan get what he wants. As for that Bai Qingli, I'm afraid we won't be able to stop her. However, with Boss and Madam's strength and Zhong Yiluan's points, we might still be able to defeat Bai Qingli. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Don't worry. Bai Qingli has already withdrawn from this demon-slaying competition. Hearing that, Di Baichen and Gong Jun were somewhat surprised. Is what you said true? I met him earlier. He should have been chased by someone sent by Bai Luchuan. If I hadn't appeared, he would have died. Chapter 66-33. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. Bai Luchuan has gone to great lengths to kill him. If he really dies, wouldn't Bai Luchuan's wish be fulfilled? Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-like eyes pricked up slightly. She believed that as long as Bai Qingli wasn't a fool, she would definitely spend some effort to investigate the matter after returning. When the time came, Bai Luchuan would have such a formidable opponent and would likely have a headache. Gong Jun's eyes gradually lit up. Madam, you are right. Although Bai Luchuan's status in the city is extraordinary, he can't be compared to Bai Qingli. Once Bai Qingli targets him, he probably won't be able to care about us. When the time comes, we will take action. Hehe. Profiteer, profiteer. Xiao He and Xiao Bai said in unison. Gong Jun glared at the two rascals. What's wrong with being a profiteer? Alright, let's head over and take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and smiled faintly. It would probably take quite a bit of time to take another path. Why not try and see if they could defeat the demon together? On the other hand, if the demon was that strong, it would likely have a lot of points. Di Baichen nodded and took the lead to walk forward. Bailey Hongzhuang followed closely behind. Gong Jun walked at the back, unable to hide his nervousness. As the distance got closer and closer, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt a powerful aura. This aura was stronger than anyone they had seen before. However, it was naturally incomparable to Granny Hua and company. This demon is definitely an extremely powerful existence in the Radiant Sun realm. Even if we join forces, it won't be easy to deal with it. Di Baichen's face was dignified. Along the way, the strength of the monsters in the labyrinth was much more tyrannical than outside, but this kind of strength, they had never encountered an opponent like this before. Upon hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This fellow is indeed not easy to deal with. Only when they got close to the entrance of the cave did they see the monster's appearance clearly. This was a monster related to the tiger clan. Its body was huge and its form was very similar to a tiger. The difference was that its body was black and red, and it had 2 heads. There was also a pair of huge wings on its back. The 2 heads seemed to have different souls and had different expressions. The moment it noticed the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, its gaze suddenly became ferocious. Roar! 2 loud and clear roars spread out with terrifying sound waves, revealing their cold and sharp fangs. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others only felt a gust of wind blow past them. Their ears were filled with that terrifying sound, and even their eardrums were shaken. He subconsciously used his elemental energy to cover his ears. This terrifying sound wave was no different from an attack. These monsters all look very unique. Xiao Hei sized up the majestic big guy in front of it. Although it had 2 heads, in all fairness this guy really had an imposing aura and was extraordinarily mighty. In fact, although the demons they had seen before also looked very scary, they all had a ferocious characteristic which was completely different from these cute-looking ones. They couldn't be said to be ugly, but they looked more ferocious. It's indeed a completely different style. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In comparison, that plane should be a completely different scene. No matter whether the colors were gorgeous or deep, they all had different kinds of beauty. Chapter 66-34. As long as we kill this demon, we'll be able to leave this place successfully. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. At this point they could only try their best. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other in tacit understanding. In the next moment the 2 of them walked in directly. When the demon saw the 2 of them appear, the anger in its eyes intensified. These 2 fellows were really digging their own graves. They actually dared to take the initiative to charge at it. In the next moment, the demon raised its claws and directly attacked Di Beichen. The huge claws immediately set off a demonic wind. Di Beichen's aura was instantly locked on, and he could only feel a terrifying pressure pressing down on him. If he was crushed by this fellow's foot, he would definitely be turned into a pile of meat paste. Di Beichen's brows furrowed. The origin energy in his body surged out violently, and he immediately broke free from the aura lock. His figure flew out, and after dodging he leaped into the air and attacked the demon with his sword. Bang! The biting cold sword aura lingered around the dark energy. It was like a black sharp blade, and it slashed down violently with a violent air wave. When the demon saw this scene, it let out another huge roar. A terrifying air wave filled with dark energy rushed out at the same time. The 2 air waves met in midair, and in that instant the earth shook and the mountains shook. The black sharp sword was completely defeated in the blink of an eye. Di Beichen also took a few steps back. One of his feet stepped on a high rock, and his handsome face was extremely serious. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also swung her sword. The dazzling light energy flashed out, and with a terrifying force, it attacked the demon's back fiercely. The demon flapped its wings and flew directly into the air. When it looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, the murderous intent in its eyes was even more intense. Roar! The shocking roar was like a hurricane. Immediately, the sand and stones around Bailey Hongzhuang were blown away, and it was difficult for her to open her eyes. A terrifying gust of wind and waves surged over, ruthlessly crushing over. Hongzhuang, be careful. Di Beichen's expression froze. At the same time he rushed out and stabbed the monster's back with his sword. Poochie! The monster suddenly felt a sharp pain in its back, and blood immediately sprayed out from its wound. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure suddenly moved forward. She knelt on the ground and slid past the monster's body. She raised the sharp sword in her hand and charged forward. Rip! The sound of the monster's stomach being ripped open rang out, and a bloody gash appeared on the monster's stomach. The moment Gong Jun saw Bailey Hongzhuang display the power of light, his expression changed. Shock, suspicion, and disbelief appeared in his deep black eyes. However, in the blink of an eye, he had already regained his original expression. It was so fast that it was as if he had never appeared before. With 2 wounds in a row, the demonic beast became even more irritable. Its eyes turned blood red, and its aura was incomparably shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that although a long bloody gash had appeared on the demonic beast's stomach, it was not seriously injured. A trace of disappointment appeared in her eyes. Earlier on, it was indeed an excellent opportunity. However, she did not expect this fellow's stomach to have such a shocking defensive power. In comparison, Di Beichen's attack on its back was more serious. Boss, madam, you're really amazing. Gong Jun was pleasantly surprised. I thought that this fellow was really too difficult to deal with. I didn't expect that you'd be able to injure it with your combined attacks. It seems that there's hope for us to get out of here. However, Di Beichen shook his head, and his expression became even more solemn. Chapter 66-35. Upon hearing Di Beichen's words, Gong Jun's face fell. However, he quickly regained his spirits. "Boss, let's help together. We must kill this fellow." Gong Jun picked up his weapon. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also enlarged their bodies and surrounded the demon. The demon's piercingly cold gaze swept across everyone. However, it paused briefly on Gong Jun. After being injured, the demon became even more irritable. The murderous aura in its eyes became even sharper. Its body flew and it spread its wings and leaped into the air. A huge shadow covered Di Beichen as it viciously slammed its claws down. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all attacked the monster together, only to see a terrible black energy ripple burst out, and under that unparalleled power, their bodies were directly shaken and sent flying. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone fell to the ground. The huge power felt as if they had crashed into a mountain. Their internal organs felt as if they had been displaced. Di Beichen also felt a numbing power coming towards him. Raging primary energy surged out from his palms and met the claw head-on. The dark energy formed a circular barrier in the air, blocking the demon's claw. Its claw paused for a moment. Then, with a snort, it suddenly increased its strength. The power exploded once again and quickly destroyed the black barrier. Boom! Once the barrier was broken, Di Beichen's body was sent flying. A mouthful of sweet blood was spat out. His handsome face was stained with a hint of paleness. However, he only saw the demon charging towards him again. Its blood-red eyes were filled with murderous aura. As long as its claw came down, he would definitely lose his life. Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly stood up. She transformed into a white light and charged forward. She then stabbed her sword fiercely at the demon. Just as the monster's foot was about to land, it sensed the airwave behind it and quickly turned around. It flew into the air and changed direction. At the same time, it raised its claws and the airwave attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. Bang! The fierce sword chi collided with the chi wave. The demonic beast's strength was undoubtedly stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang was also sent flying, once again hitting a rock. Upon seeing this, Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Gong Jun also rushed forward. 3 attacks came from different directions. A trace of disdain flashed in the monster's eyes. Its body shook and a dark wave of air swept out like a black curtain, blocking the 3 attacks. Damn it! How can this monster be so strong? Xiao Hei's vision turned black. This terrifying power had severely injured it with just one strike. Earlier, this fellow must have underestimated his opponent and did not display his true strength. Now that it has been injured, its bloodthirst has been aroused. Its attacks are even more ruthless. Gong Jun clutched his chest and said with an ugly expression. Di Beichen rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. His eyes were full of heartache. "How are you?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "I'm fine. This fellow is not easy to deal with. It'll be a fierce battle." Di Beichen's expression was solemn. After just one round of battle, the gap between the two of them had been revealed. This monster must be very close to breaking through to the elementary immortal stage. Coupled with its terrifying defense, it would be very difficult to kill it. No matter what, let's give it our all. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. Her blood chi field and murderous chi field instantly exploded. Her aura was much stronger than before. Chapter 66-36. The Radiant Sun stage seemed to be only one stage away from the elementary immortal stage, but it was too difficult for cultivators to cross. This was a stage where one's origin energy was constantly accumulating, but no one knew when one would be able to break through. Hence, the Radiant Sun stage was not divided into levels and there was only one stage. Once one broke through, it would be a different world. If one could not break through, one could not be called an immortal. Although the monster in front of them was at the Radiant Sun stage, according to their judgment, this fellow must have been cultivating at this stage for a long time. The gap between them was not small. Di Beichen nodded slightly, and his blood aura and murderous aura spread out at the same time. When the monster noticed the increase in Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Bai's aura, a hint of surprise appeared in its eyes. However, this did not make it afraid. It only felt that these two fellows were even more annoying. Roar! The monster roared and charged forward again. It wanted to cripple these two fellows. The two of them also charged forward again with great tacit understanding. The sharp sword and the giant claw collided, and 3 streams of air collided in mid-air. When Xiao He and Xiao Bai saw this, they attacked the monster's back fiercely. Gong Jun took the opportunity to stab forward with his sword. After the monster sensed several auras, it became impatient. A huge amount of energy exploded and Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Gong Jun were sent flying. As for Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, they forcefully used their origin energy to block the monster's claw. This fellow's origin energy was so huge that it was almost stronger than the two of them combined. At this moment, they also deeply understood the situation that Granny Hua had mentioned earlier. The Radiant Sun stage was the stage where cultivators stayed for the longest time. This fellow's origin energy was already so terrifying that it could not break through. Then, how long would it take for them to break through? Just thinking about it was enough to know. Boom! A huge energy ripple exploded, and the two of them retreated several steps. However, the monster also retreated 2 steps under the influence of the energy. When it looked at the two of them again, there was a hint of seriousness in the monster's eyes. It did not expect these two fellows to be able to block its all-out attack when they worked together. After truly understanding the difference in strength between the two sides, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that it would be very difficult for them to defeat this monster in a head-on confrontation. In the next moment, a surge of elemental energy erupted from her body. All the elemental energy swept out at this moment, and a dense dark energy surrounded her body. They clearly noticed that their master's eyes had turned as black as ink. As well, Di Beichen also displayed the same trick, and his aura suddenly became cold and murderous. Why haven't I seen it before? Xiao He looked at the scene in front of her in shock. Although she did not understand what kind of move it was, she could feel that the power of this move was extremely shocking. It was far more powerful than any of the previous moves. Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. However, it quickly understood. Is this the inheritance of the Bitter Sea's abyss? Chapter 66-37. Gong Jun listened to Xiao He and Xiao Bai from the side, and a trace of doubt flashed between his brows. What kind of move are you talking about? We're not sure either. We only know that Master has obtained the inheritance of the Bitter Sea Abyss, but we've never seen it before. Thinking about it, this move should be quite powerful. The two beasts were very confident about this point because the inheritance of the 3 Great Abyss had never disappointed them before. They thought that this time it would not disappoint them either. Gong Jun quietly watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's changing aura. A trace of understanding quietly flashed in his eyes, and there was even a trace of amazement. After Bailey Hongzhuang set up the barrier, she only felt that the dark energy in the entire area could be controlled by her at will. She raised her right hand and waved it out casually. A huge dark energy ball attacked the monster. After the monster sensed the changes in the surrounding situation, it also became hesitant and uneasy. The dark energy in its body also became restless. This feeling was as if there was an invisible net binding it. Even using its power felt a little awkward. Raising both hands slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang blasted out a palm, and energy poured out continuously. Di Beichen stretched out his palm, and a huge palm formed by dark energy attacked first. The monster roared and swung its claws. This time, although it was able to block the power, it was clearly much more difficult than before. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes, and a trace of joy appeared between her brows. Sure enough, once this barrier was set up, their strength increased a lot. Seeing this, the two of them did not stop moving, and their moves became even more violent. Although the effect of the barrier was obvious, the consumption of primary energy was also very terrifying. If they could not get rid of this guy in a short period of time, once they ran out of energy, only death would await them. Tyrannical energy fluctuations continued to explode. Gong Jun, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai could no longer intervene in this situation. Because both sides were very strong, and if they rashly attacked, they might directly break into their barrier. Gong Jun stared at the scene in front of him in a daze, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Boss, could it be that they are using a barrier? Upon hearing this familiar phrase, Xiao He could not help but ask, Profiteer, you actually know about barriers? Gong Jun glanced at Xiao He and ignored the way she addressed him. Although I'm not strong, I'm quite knowledgeable. I've heard a lot of things from others. It's said that this barrier can only be comprehended by cultivators who have broken through to the elementary immortal stage. That's not all. As far as I know, even cultivators who have broken through the elementary celestial stage are rarely able to grasp it. Most cultivators can't even touch this threshold. But Boss and Madam were only at the Radiant Sun realm. How could they possibly comprehend a barrier? Logically speaking, this is simply impossible. Seeing Gong Jun's stunned expression, Xiao Bai also had a smug look on her face. Master and Madam are first-rate geniuses. Naturally, their comprehension ability is not something that ordinary people can compare to. If this was seen by others, I'm afraid they would not even dare to believe it. Chapter 66-38. Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other. Their masters always thought that they were noisy, but now it seemed that Gong Jun was the one who was noisy. Don't be happy too early. I can see that this big guy's strength is extraordinary. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to deal with it. Xiao Bai's expression was solemn. It had been by its master's side every day, so its eyesight was much better than before. Even though their two masters' combat strength had greatly increased after casting the barrier, they did not know what kind of tricks this guy had up its sleeves. Since the monster from that plane could appear here, it was impossible to say that it did not have any powerful tricks up its sleeves. Bang bang bang. Energy kept pouring out and more wounds appeared on the monster's body. It attacked Bailey Hongzhuang with all its might. It was clearly not very far away, but the mountains formed by the dark energy blocked its path, stopping it in its tracks. After noticing that the monster's condition was gradually worsening, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen tacitly launched a fatal attack. Turbulent dark energy condensed in their hands, and like a storm they attacked the monster in the middle at the same time. In an instant, Gong Jun, Xiao He and Xiao Bai felt that the entire cave was about to collapse. The terrifying shockwave caused their bodies to sway outside. Roar! The monster suddenly roared, but this roar was much more terrifying than its previous roars. The formless sound wave swept out, and its body suddenly flew into the sky. Then the same black energy wrapped around it like a huge black ball. In the next moment, its wings suddenly opened, and a terrifying black energy suddenly exploded with it as the center. Everything before them was pitch black. The terrifying storm sent Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen flying, and their bodies fell heavily to the ground like kites with their strings cut. Bailey Hongzhuang spat out a mouthful of blood. Her eyes closed weakly, and her consciousness was in a blur. It wasn't until the moment before she fainted that she finally understood that this was the self-detonation of a demon. The terrifying energy swept across the surroundings. Even Xiao He and Xiao Bai were sent flying by the terrifying storm. They crashed into the rocks and lost consciousness. Di Beichen's situation was no better than Bailey Hongzhuang's. They were in the center of the energy storm and could not avoid it. However, after the entire cave regained its silence, Gong Jun slowly walked to Di Beichen's side. His fleshy face no longer had its usual naivety. His eyes, which were always full of astuteness and laughter, were now serious and dignified. His temperament seemed to have undergone a huge change in an instant. He flipped his hands and a strange seal quietly appeared. His right hand reached out to Di Beichen's head. Gradually, his eyes were filled with unconcealable excitement. At this moment, another figure appeared next to Gong Jun. He slowly said, "There's no doubt about it." After hearing this, the man's face was filled with excitement. "That's great. Then shouldn't we bring Master back now?" "No." Gong Jun shook his head. His expression was solemn and serious. "We've only broken the first seal. It's not time to go back yet." "But, no buts." Gong Jun's voice was filled with endless dignity, and there was no room for doubt. Chapter 66-39. Young Master Gong, this woman. Let's kill her. The man's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and a vicious glint flashed across his eyes. In the next moment, his hand directly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. Just then Gong Jun's voice suddenly rang out, "Stop." The man's hand paused and his expression instantly turned ugly. "Young Master Gong, don't forget your responsibility." "She's not that woman," Gong Jun said indifferently. The man was stunned and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, then looked at Gong Jun. "She's not? Didn't you notice the dark energy lingering around her body?" Gong Jun said coldly. The man then squatted down. After sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's aura, the strong murderous intent in his eyes gradually dissipated and he revealed a comfortable smile. "She's not. That's great. Since there's nothing else, you should leave. Otherwise they'll find you when they wake up." "Yes." In the blink of an eye, the man's figure quickly disappeared from the spot. Gong Jun quietly looked at Di Beichen, unconcealable joy between his brows and the corners of his lips slightly raised. "Master, long time no see." When Bailey Hongzhuang slowly woke up, she saw a familiar handsome face. Di Beichen happily said, "Wife, you're awake?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and looked at everything around her. The scene before she fainted gradually surfaced in her mind. We're still in the cave? Di Baichen nodded and gently helped her up. Earlier, that demon suddenly self-destructed and we were all seriously injured and unconscious. I've already fed you a pill, how do you feel? Moving her heavy body, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. I'm fine as long as I'm not dead. Where's Gong Jun and the rest? Di Baichen pointed not far away. The energy storm from the demon's self-destruction was too strong and they were all knocked unconscious. Xiao He and Xiao Bai have just regained consciousness and Gong Jun should be waking up soon as well. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt relieved. Only then did she notice that the originally pitch-black environment had suddenly become very bright. She looked up and realized that there was sunlight shining above her head and she immediately understood. From the looks of it, we'll be able to leave from the top. That's right. Di Baichen nodded. As long as we kill this demon, we'll be able to leave this place. How long have we been unconscious? We really should be quick. Bailey Hongzhuang checked the injuries on her body. The power of this demon's self-destruction was truly terrifying. Fortunately, although they were unconscious, their situation was not as bad as Bai Qingli's. Although there were many wounds on her body, they did not affect her much. After taking the healing pill, her recovery speed was also very fast. I'll go check on Gong Jun. When he wakes up, we'll leave this place. Okay? Gong Jun. Di Baichen looked at the unconscious Gong Jun. Although this guy was in the periphery, his injuries were also very serious. He reached out and patted Gong Jun's face. Gong Jun, wake up. Hearing this voice, Gong Jun slowly woke up. There was a trace of confusion on his face. When he saw the face in front of him clearly, he said in surprise, "Boss? It's good that you're awake. We have to prepare to leave this place." Gong Jun immediately came back to his senses and subconsciously wanted to sit up. The moment he moved, he pulled on his wounds and could not help but wail. Chapter 66-40. Everyone fainted when that monster self-destructed. I've already fed you some pills, but it'll take some time for you to recover. It's getting late and the monster slaughtering competition is about to end. We have to leave this place quickly. Di Baichen's expression turned serious. Gong Jun understood as well. He endured the pain and stood up. Yes. Let's go quickly. Even though everyone's injuries had not fully recovered, flying out of the cave was not difficult for them. In the blink of an eye, the three of them were out of the maze. At the same time, Bai Li Yanche and the rest were puzzled. We haven't seen sister and brother-in-law for so long. Could it be that they're faster than us and have already left? Ling Er nodded. That's not strange. They're the strongest, so it's natural that they'll pass faster than us. Since we were able to pass, it shouldn't be a problem for them. When Xiren had a casual expression as he said matter-of-factly, "Don't worry, we came here separately to gain experience." They should have already left. There's still a few days before the monster slaughtering competition ends. It's just enough time for us to hurry back. Zhong Limu said. I've gained a lot in this maze. I wonder what ranking I'll get with these points. Hearing this, when Xiren immediately moved to Zhong Limu's side. I've gained a lot too. Let's see if you have more points than me. Seeing this, Bai Li Yanche and the rest looked at the two of them curiously. But in the next moment, they heard Xiren's wail. That's ridiculous. How can you have so much more points than me? I've clearly compared with Ying. The difference in points between us isn't that big. Zhong Limu smiled. When I came out, I didn't see any of you, so I went in for a while before coming out. When Xiren stared at Zhong Limu for a moment before shouting, "Beast?" Ah. Zhong Limu laughed unceremoniously. Who asked you to be slower than me? When Xiren moved closer to Mo Yunjue's side. Yunjue, let me see your points. Calm me down. Mo Yunjue handed the identity card to Xiren with a cold expression. However, after seeing the number on it, Xiren's eyes widened and he could not help but wail again. You. How can you have more points than Zhong Limu? Could it be that your speed is faster than his? No. Mo Yunjue shook his head. What's going on? At this moment, even Di Xiaofeng was curiously looking at Mo Yunjue. In fact, he had always been very clear that although this cold man rarely spoke, his strength had always been extremely strong. I met a few people when I was passing through the level. After I finished them off, I took their points. Mo Yunjue's voice was calm, as if it was a matter of fact. Xiren's lips twitched. Yunjue, when you're talking about something so outrageous, can your expression not be so casual? Is this outrageous? Mo Yunjue's face was calm. This is very normal. Chapter 6641. When Di Baichen and the other two walked out of the maze, they found that there was no one nearby. After thinking for a moment, they understood that everyone should have left first. The three of them slowly walked forward. Xiao He and Xiao Bai shrunk their bodies and sat on Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. Their speed was not fast. Along the way they also paid attention to whether other cultivators would appear. After all, their injuries had not healed yet. If they encountered other cultivators, some trouble would inevitably occur. Fortunately, because the competition was about to end, almost all the cultivators had left. Along the way they did not encounter anyone. Not only that, but even those monsters had been killed by everyone, so they did not have to worry about these problems. Therefore, although their speed was not fast, it was not much slower than when they came. If that monster was going to die, then so be it. How dare it self-destruct? How abominable. Gong Jun's face was full of resentment. I've never suffered such serious injuries since I came to Shiyun City. This time it's good. Looking at Gong Jun's indignant look, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen smiled faintly and shook their heads. This guy was different from them. They usually went through fire and water, so this kind of situation was normal. Actually, this monster's strength is extraordinary. It's very lucky that its self-destruction only seriously injured us and did not kill us. A trace of doubt flashed across Di Baichen's brows. Logically speaking, it was a miracle that such a strong monster self-destructed and they were so close to it. Gong Jun smiled and said, I think that monster is different from the monsters we've seen before. Although it's strong, the power of its self-destruction is not strong enough. I didn't notice that this monster was planning to self-destruct at all. Its speed is much faster than ours. Hearing this, the doubt between Di Baichen's brows gradually dissipated. You're right. This monster is different from the monsters we've seen before. Whether it's the power or speed of its self-destruction, it's different. One who survives a great disaster is destined for good fortune in the future. On the way back they met some cultivators sporadically. Bailey Hongzhuang kept looking for Zhong Yiluan. However, they didn't see Zhong Yiluan even as they got closer and closer to the end. I haven't seen Zhong Yiluan for so long. I wonder where he went. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Although she didn't know what ranking they would achieve with their points and Zhong Yiluan's points, it wouldn't be a problem to enter the top 10. Furthermore, as long as Bai Luchuan didn't have these points, his ranking would definitely drop greatly. This guy wouldn't go back on his word, right? Gong Jun said worriedly. This fellow is a person who cherishes his life. Even if he's working for Bai Luchuan, he wouldn't be willing to lose his life. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, her expression still showing a trace of confidence. Unless Shiyun City has a person with superb medical skills, he has no other choice. In my opinion, he should have already met up with Bai Luchuan. I'm afraid we won't be able to see him until we reach the end. Di Baichen revealed a pondering look. We'll see what happens when the time comes. He should think of a way to approach us. Chapter 6642. While Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were deep in thought, Bai Luchuan was also anxiously searching for Zhong Yiluan. Where did Zhong Yiluan run off to? The demon-slaying competition is about to end, but this fellow is still nowhere to be seen. Bai Luchuan was flustered and exasperated. It wasn't easy for Bai Qingli to give up on the competition. It was a good opportunity for him to show off. Although he couldn't take advantage of this opportunity to kill Bai Qingli, as long as he could show his prowess and overshadow his limelight, it would be excellent. Young master, we have already sent people to search everywhere. However, in the later stages of the competition, Zhong Yiluan suddenly disappeared for some reason. My points are still only 5th place. What the hell are the 4 numbers on the ranking list? Bai Luchuan looked at the top 4 names on the ranking list. They were all numbers. Such a situation had never happened since the demon-slaying competition was held. Now, almost everyone was discussing who the owner of the number was. He was really puzzled. Why would these fellows use numbered identity cards for no reason? Most importantly, when he thought of the numbered identity card, he couldn't help but think of Di Baichen and company. These fellows were forced to use their identity cards because of his obstruction. Now that such a situation had happened, could it be related to them? Brother Bai, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen both used numbered identity cards. I wonder if they are among the 4? Yun Xiaoman also had a bad premonition. These 2 fellows had been extraordinary from the moment they appeared. If they really obtained first place this time, wouldn't that be terrible? Bai Liuchuan's expression immediately darkened. He turned to look at the man beside him. Do you know their numbers? Young master, Every year, the numbered identity cards are randomly distributed. Any cultivator can receive them, so they don't pay attention to this aspect. Furthermore, according to the memories of the person who issued the numbers, he has never seen Di Beichen and Bai Qingli. Unlucky. Bai Luchuan cursed. A bunch of trash. Looking at Bai Liuchuan's cursing appearance, Yun Xiaoman couldn't help but comfort him. Brother Bai, in my opinion, this might not be them. Look, 4 out of the top 5 are serial numbers. Maybe it has nothing to do with them. I hope so. When Mo Yunjue and the others arrived, they discovered that many cultivators had already gathered there. However, there were still many cultivators nearby who were still fighting monsters for some points. This year's monster slaying competition is truly the most peculiar one. The top 4 are actually all numbered identity cards. Do you guys think they're ruthless people from other cities? I think this should be the most likely scenario. Our Cloud City's strength is a bit inferior compared to the other cities. Once the cultivators from the other cities came, it wouldn't be strange for them to obtain such results. If that's really the case, then wouldn't our Shiyun city be a bit embarrassed? If it wasn't for Bai Qingli being hunted down and giving up on the competition, the first place would still be his. Everyone sighed. Bai Qingli was the undisputed number 1 in their hearts. Even if they couldn't get it, they didn't want it to fall into the hands of people from other cities. Chapter 66-43. A look of anticipation appeared on Zhongli Mu's face. Let's go and take a look. Before they came, they had already compared their scores. Among them, he and Yunju had the highest points. However, they didn't know about the past results of the demon slaughter competition, so they couldn't use this to determine their ranking. Di Xiaofeng and the others also quickened their pace. When they saw the rankings, a smile appeared on their faces. As expected, you guys are 3rd and 4th. Di Xiaofeng's face didn't have the slightest bit of surprise because above Mo Yunjue and Zhongli Mu's rankings were Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. I remember that Beichen's points weren't much higher than ours back then. Xiren looked thoughtful. Could it be that Beichen is the same as you guys and robbed others in the maze? Mo Yunjue looked at the difference in points above and a complicated look flashed in his eyes. If that's the case, then Beichen and Hongzhuang must have robbed a group of people. The corner of Xiren's mouth twitched slightly. Thinking about the difference in points, it was indeed not the difference of 1 or 2 people. These 2 guys are really abnormal. I didn't meet anyone else along the way in the maze. Me too. Sheng Guanying nodded. But I think even if we met, the ones in danger would still be us, right? Look, that Bai Luchuan is 5th. Although you didn't chase this guy out of the top 10, it's still not bad. Xiao Xuanzi smiled. This annoying guy actually wanted to kill his master. Now that he had such a result, he must be very depressed. While everyone was discussing, Bailey Yenche began to search the vicinity. Why haven't I seen elder sister and brother-in-law yet? Hearing this, everyone came back to their senses from the rankings and started to search the surroundings. However, as the crowd circled around the area, they did not see Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Mingya. Their faces were filled with doubt. Beichen and the others won't be slower than us, right? Xiren pondered. Not necessarily. Di Xiaofeng said, maybe they rushed out of the labyrinth too quickly so they went back again. That way they'll be behind us. Listening to Di Xiaofeng's perverted explanation, Xiren didn't know what to say. This kind of thing. You don't have to be so willful, do you? You think it's impossible? Di Xiaofeng asked. Xiren stared at Di Xiaofeng for a second. No, I think it's very possible. Isn't that right? Emperor Xiaofeng smiled faintly. This also explains why their points are so much higher. Haha. When Xiren laughed. I still believe that they robbed others. Alright, I think so too. Everyone looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Bai Luchuan had been looking for Zhong Yiluan. Suddenly, he saw those familiar figures in front of him and his face became gloomy. Big brother Yun, aren't they Di Beichen's helpers? Yun Xiaoman also noticed the appearance of this group of people. In fact, from the moment these guys appeared, many people had already started discussing them. Chapter 66-44. Why did they appear but I didn't see Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang? Yun Xiaoman's gaze searched her surroundings. When she thought of these 2 fellows, she couldn't help but feel a strong sense of unwillingness in her heart. They really didn't appear? Bai Luchuan frowned slightly and suddenly chuckled. These 2 fellows like to cause trouble so much. They might have already died at someone's hands. Hearing this, Yun Xiaoman couldn't help but laugh. Brother Bai, what you said isn't impossible. If that's the case, then that's great. Bai Luchuan only glanced at them before shifting his gaze. He wasn't in the mood to argue with these fellows. He only wanted to find Zhong Yiluan as soon as possible. The demon slaughter competition was about to end. If he still couldn't find Zhong Yiluan, then his name would stop at 5th place. Not to mention being in the limelight, even if he were to compare a few times, his results would be much worse. Bai Qingli giving up on the competition because of the assassination could be considered a dignified reason. However, if he were to obtain such results after participating, then the one who would be truly embarrassed would be him. While Bai Luchuan sent people to search everywhere, Zhong Yiluan's mood was extremely complicated. He kept looking around, hoping that the two figures would appear soon. If they didn't appear, then he would inevitably be caught. Great Aunt, hurry up and show up. Zhong Yiluan hid to the side, the anxiety on his face was obvious. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan had only agreed on the exchange of points. As for where the exchange would take place, they didn't say anything. Now the competition was about to end, but he couldn't find the two of them. Wasn't this asking for his life? He had spent a tremendous amount of effort to secretly frame someone else, but if he couldn't get the antidote, then it would be completely over. Gong Jun, in your opinion, where would Zhong Yiluan be waiting for us? As they got closer and closer to the rankings, Di Beichen's voice sounded. Gong Jun paused for a moment as he recalled the scene near the rankings. Suddenly, a thought surfaced in his mind. Boss, if it were me, I would definitely choose to wait over there. Gong Jun pointed to a spot not too far away. That place is rather secluded, so most people won't pay too much attention to it. However, the field of vision is also quite wide. If anything happens, there are many ways to escape. Then let's go to the place you mentioned. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in surprise. Do you think Zhong Yiluan will be there? Gong Jun is an expert, so he must be very good at this. As for Zhong Yiluan, he's different from us. He's already participated in the monster slaying competition several times, so he's definitely very familiar with the surrounding terrain. If he is waiting for us, he will definitely find a suitable place to hide. Di Beichen's lips curled into a faint smile. If he isn't around when we go this time, then forget it. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Okay. Boss, do you really trust my judgment that much? Along the way, even Gong Jun did not believe in himself. If it were you, you would choose that place, right? If it were me, I would definitely choose that place. Then it can't be wrong. Di Beichen said casually. No need to think too much. We'll know when we get there. Chapter 66-45. After realizing that Zhong Yiluan was nowhere to be seen, Gong Jun's face fell. Boss, Zhong Yiluan isn't here. Even if he isn't here, it's fine. The competition is about to end, and it's our fault that we didn't come up with a plan. Bailey Hongzhuang consoled him gently. Ever since they killed the self-destructing monster, their points had risen by a large margin. Even though she wasn't sure of the result, she was still quite confident in her points. Don't worry, let's wait for a while. Di Beichen smiled faintly. His handsome and unparalleled face was calm and indifferent, like a wisp of wind. Any worries could be blown away by the wind. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun stood to the side looking around. After climbing over the hill, the ranking board would be right in front of them. Speaking of which, their location was quite convenient to find someone. Just as they were thinking, an excited voice came from the side. My lady, you're finally here. Hearing the voice that sounded like tears of joy, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn to see Zhong Yiluan crawl out from the bushes. At that moment, there were a few strands of grass stuck to his head. Obviously, he had been hiding in the bushes to not attract attention. When he saw them arrive, he quickly ran out. Compared to the first time she saw him, his appearance at the moment was really too embarrassing. In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang, there was an inexplicable feeling of joy. Zhong Yiluan, did you bring the points? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Yes, I did. Zhong Yiluan nodded repeatedly. I've brought them all. My lady, I'll give you all the points, but you have to give me the antidote. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her right hand. Show me the points first. Zhong Yiluan respectfully handed his ID card to Qing Chong. My lady, I've brought all the points. I've not left a single one behind. Glancing at the points on the ID card, a satisfied look appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. From the looks of it, Zhong Yiluan's team's efficiency in obtaining points was quite good. If these points landed in Bai Liuchuan's hands, he might really become first place. After transferring the points to her ID card, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up when she saw the points rise by a large margin. First place should be in the bag. When Zhong Yiluan saw that the points on the identity card had been reset to 0, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of pity in his eyes. However, he quickly erased this trace of thought and nervously said, "Great Aunt, I've already given you all the points. The antidote? Here you go." Bailey Hongzhuang placed the antidote in Zhong Yiluan's hand. "I always keep my words." Looking at the antidote in his hand, Zhong Yiluan was stunned. He couldn't believe that she would really give him the antidote. He knew very well how much he had gone overboard with what he had done earlier. Even though he had handed over the points, he only had a 1 in a million hope. Under such circumstances, most people wouldn't give him the antidote. However, looking at the antidote in his hand, he suddenly felt that the woman before him was emitting an endless glow. Instantly, the hatred from before seemed to dissipate. Chapter 66-46. Don't worry, this is the real antidote. If I don't want to save you, I just don't need to give you the antidote. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I believe you, I believe you. Zhong Yiluan nodded repeatedly and immediately swallowed the antidote. Leave this place as soon as possible. If you are discovered, you won't be able to keep your life. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. She wasn't worried that Zhong Yiluan would tell Bai Luchuan about this matter. After all, they were already enemies, so she didn't plan on hiding it. On the contrary, if Bai Luchuan knew about this, he would definitely be very angry. His expression would definitely be very interesting. Zhong Yiluan looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. A hint of regret flashed across his eyes. The next moment he quickly left. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes and said with a smile, "Gong Jun, your judgment is really amazing." Gong Jun himself found it unbelievable. "I didn't expect this guy to really be here." "Boss, how did you know?" For a moment, the two humans and two beasts looked at Di Beichen in surprise. His judgment in this aspect was simply too amazing. However, Di Beichen didn't say anything. He turned around and slowly walked towards the ranking board. Deliberately mystifying. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and quickly followed. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan appeared, Wen Ziren and company immediately noticed them and quickly came forward. "Where did you guys go?" "You actually arrived a day later than us," Wen Ziren asked. "Naturally, we went to earn points." Di Xiaofeng's face also revealed a hint of surprise. "Hongzhuang, I just realized that your points suddenly increased a lot. What's going on?" As they hadn't seen Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan, they couldn't help but feel worried. Therefore, they had been staring at the points on the ranking board. As long as the points moved, it meant that the two of them were still safe and sound. Just a moment ago, he discovered that Hongzhuang's points had suddenly increased rapidly, and there was a huge gap between her and Beichen. He went to rob others of their points. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, a sly look on her face. As expected. Ziren shook his head. "You are all bandits." "Us?" Bailey Hongzhuang was confused. "Yunju and Zhongli are both bandits." Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. She couldn't help but smile. "Isn't that good? Save yourself the trouble." After Bai Luchuan realized that he couldn't find Zhong Yiluan, he sent people to collect points. Now the ranking could be roughly confirmed. When some cultivators felt hopeless, as long as they offered certain conditions, it was possible to get their points back. It wasn't easy for him to recover some points, but he had also paid a hefty price. "Brother Bai, although these points can't be compared to the points accumulated by so many people, it's still not bad. As long as you add these points, your ranking will be able to surpass 2 people. Tomorrow will be the day when the competition will officially end. Although the difference in points between first and second place is relatively large, it's not impossible." Yun Xiaoman's eyes were filled with anticipation. "Brother Bai, I believe you will definitely become first place." Hearing this, Bai Luchuan smiled and nodded. Although he had wasted a lot of resources this time, as long as he became first place, whether it was the reward or glory, it was not something that could be compared to these. Chapter 66-47. Look, the points have changed. Bai Luchuan's ranking has changed from 5th to 3rd. I saw him earlier. I'm afraid he's still unwilling to give up, so he's taking advantage of the last bit of time to hunt some monsters? Such an increase in points is too shocking. There's still one more night. Perhaps his points will rise again tomorrow? The cultivators discussed. As long as the competition was not over, there was still a possibility of the rankings changing. No one could be sure of the outcome until the last moment. However, most of the people present were smart. Seeing the sudden increase in points, they knew without thinking that it was impossible for them to have obtained it from killing monsters. In the depths of the Demon Slaughter Mountain range, encountering some extremely ferocious monsters might increase the points at an extremely fast speed. However, in the periphery, almost all the monsters that could be killed had been dealt with. There was only one way for Bai Luchuan to obtain so many points in a short period of time. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her gaze after hearing the discussions around her. Noticing the change in the rankings, she could not help but say, Bai Luchuan really spent a lot of effort this time. To collect so many points in such a short period of time, the price he paid is probably not small. Zhongli Mu's expression turned ugly when he noticed that his ranking had been surpassed. This Bai Luchuan is too despicable. He actually used such a method to surpass me. Hongzhuang, there's still one more night. Will his points surpass yours? Shangguan Yingying revealed a worried expression. Originally, everything was in the bag, but she never expected such a sudden change. Her heart also became uncertain. Bailey Hongzhuang observed the difference in strength between them and shook her head with a faint smile. Don't worry. His points will definitely not surpass Beichin and me. Even if his methods are not simple, the cultivation resources he has spent from the beginning of the competition until now is already astonishing. He is only the city lord's nephew, not the city lord's son. His financial resources are ultimately limited. Up until now, the gap between Bai Luchuan and her points was too large. Unless he took away all the points of everyone on the rankings, it was impossible. The top 10 would all receive glory and rewards. If it were any other cultivator, they would definitely not be willing to give up. Even if Bai Luchuan offered very tempting conditions, the average person wouldn't be moved. Most importantly, most of the people in the top 10 were their people. Xiren, show me your points, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said. Oh. When Xiren immediately gave his identity to Bailey Hongzhuang. After Bailey Hongzhuang looked at everyone's points, a plan immediately formed in her mind. This time, how about we make a name for ourselves together? As the woman's voice fell, a trace of doubt surfaced in the eyes of Wen Xiren and the rest. Hongzhuang, every time I see this expression on your face, I know that you must have a plan. Shangguan Yingying chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and blinked. You've always known me well. Look, our total points added together is very shocking. Chapter 66-48. In fact, the ranking board only showed the top 10. 7 of the top 10 were numbered and no one knew who the real people were. This kind of thing had already defied common sense. The remaining 3 true name cultivators were all very famous cultivators in their daily lives. The names on the ranking board were so clear, but everyone couldn't help but think that it was fake because it was too unbelievable. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Fortunately, they had the booklet that Gong Jun brought. If they had been hunting monsters outside, they definitely wouldn't have so many points. However, the maze was really the best place to obtain points. Although the time and energy spent killing monsters was much more than outside, the return of points could be said to be very satisfactory. This was also the reason why Bai Qingli could obtain first place for several years in a row. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't dare to go there to train. When Di Xiaofeng and the others heard Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion, they only felt that this idea was too crazy. However, thinking about it carefully, this was really a bold and feasible decision. If we do this, wouldn't it be too high profile? Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but ask. Because of Bai Luchuan, they were already very famous. If they took all the top 10 spots, it would be too exaggerated. They would probably be targeted very soon. I think this is very good. How domineering. Zhongli Mu's face was full of anticipation. Usually there are too few people who find trouble with me. If someone really does find trouble with me, whether it's cultivation resources or battle experience, it's all a gain for me. In the face of Zhongli Mu's high spirits, Bailey Yunyan directly ignored his thoughts. This guy was definitely a battle maniac. Gong Jun also said with both hands in agreement, as long as we distribute the points, we will definitely be able to occupy the top 10. In this demon slaughter competition, the rewards for the top 3 are the most generous, but the rewards for the remaining 7 aren't bad either. These cultivation resources will definitely help you improve your cultivation. Even if you need them, it's also very good to sell them. Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Beichin's newbie little brother really cared about benefits at all times. It would be strange if this guy didn't make money from his business. I agree too. This is pretty good, Ling Er suddenly said. Agreed. Mo Yunjue replied. Since everyone agrees, let's do it. Di Beichen's voice sounded. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She planned to go and get the illusion form pearl for Xiaohe and Xiaobai. After all, it was in another city. If it wasn't suitable for them to stay here, they could just move to another city. Even though there was a slight difference in the strength of the cultivators in each city with their current strength, it would not be a problem for them to enter a few cities. Then shall we split the points now? When Xiren said excitedly. Not to mention anything else, just the thought of them being in the top 10 made him very excited. No. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue objected in unison. Xiren was slightly startled. What's wrong? There's still 1 day left. Let's hold back for now and wait for changes. We'll do this when it's almost over. At that time, Bai Luchuan will definitely be caught off guard. Chapter 66-49. Let's go. We shouldn't stay here, lest we attract too much attention. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. At present, there were many cultivators hunting demonic beasts in the vicinity, especially those who were ranked at the top. They all wanted to take advantage of this last opportunity to climb into the top 10. Hongzhuang, I see that your aura is a bit weak. Are you injured? Shengguan Ying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. At first, she felt that Hongzhuang's complexion was a bit weaker than usual. Now that she looked more carefully, she was even more certain. We encountered an extremely powerful monster earlier and fought a great battle. We suffered some injuries, but it's nothing serious. We just need some time to recover. Hearing that, Bai Lianche said in surprise, there was such a powerful monster in the maze that you and brother-in-law were seriously injured? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That monster was extremely powerful. Even though Beichen and I used all our means, we were still seriously injured by its self-destruction. It's good that you're fine. The two of you are very lucky, Di Xiaofeng said with relief. Gong Jun, have you heard of the illusion bead? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Gong Jun. Among them, Gong Jun had stayed in the realm of chaotic immortals the longest. Perhaps he would know something about it. Illusion bead? Gong Jun nodded. I've heard of it. It's very rare. I heard that Qingyang City's lord has one in his hands. How do you think we can get it from him? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of concern. This thing could be said to be the thing she wanted the most right now. Gong Jun looked thoughtful. I've only heard of the illusion bead before. As for where it is, I didn't pay too much attention. Since the city lord of Qingyang City has it, I'll find a way to find out about it after we get out. How about it? All right. This night was destined to be the most restless night in Cloud City. Even though it was already late at night, no one felt sleepy at all. They kept staring at the changes on the ranking board. Most of the discussions were about the identities of the numbered cultivators. Even though the competition was about to end, they were still completely unaware of the true identities of these people. They were simply too curious. Bai Luchuan kept sending people to help collect points. However, he couldn't do such a thing on a grand scale to prevent others from spreading it. It would be very unpleasant. Under such circumstances, although his points kept rising, the extent of the increase was limited. Most importantly, his cultivation resources were constantly being used up. If this continued, even with his wealth, he would be in a deficit. I'm still quite far away from first place. No matter what, I have to catch up. Bai Liuchuan's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. He really didn't want to wait another year. Young master, we've already done our best. We'll definitely make up for the points. Zhong Yiluan still hasn't been found? No, that guy seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. Damn it. Bai Luchuan cursed. Does that guy dare to betray me? Young master, Zhong Yiluan has been doing his best for us for the past few years. He shouldn't dare to be disloyal. Do you think he might have been killed? Chapter 66-50. City Lord's Mansion. As Bai Qingli's injuries gradually recovered, his mind kept recalling what Bailey Hongzhuang had said to him. He had already understood the situation of this woman coming to Xiyun City. Judging from the time, he was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang had never seen him before. He never thought that Bai Luchuan would plot against him behind his back, but for some reason, when he thought of the woman's indifferent and casual manner without any intention of instigating him, he felt that what she said was very likely true. Wasn't it too laughable that the cousin he had always trusted treated him like this? Young master, there's news about the matter you sent me to investigate. A black-clothed man appeared in front of Bai Qingli. Speak. Bai Qingli's expression was cold, and his voice did not waver at all. The man looked at Bai Qingli's cold appearance and his heart trembled slightly. Ever since he began following the young master, he had rarely seen such an expression on his face. According to the young master's description, we have already confirmed the identities of the 3 assassins. We have investigated everywhere and found that they have indeed come into contact with young Master Luchuan. However, we have yet to find any concrete evidence to prove that it was young Master Luchuan who did it. I understand. Bai Qingli nodded slightly. Other than that, do you have any information about the matter of purchasing points? Master, there is indeed such a matter. The man said respectfully, a few years ago, young Master Luchuan sent people to collect points. In the past few years, young Master Liuchuan's results on the rankings were all fake. It was not his true strength. Hearing this, Bai Qingli chuckled. He's just a relative of my city lord's mansion. He was actually so arrogant when participating in the demon-slaying competition. It was clearly a competition in the city, but it was as if it was his competition. Isn't it laughable? The man did not say anything, but his heart was filled with apprehension. Even if they did not find any irrefutable evidence about the assassins, he believed that the young master knew that this matter was probably related to young Master Luchuan. In fact, he had reminded the young master of this point in the past, but the young master had never believed it and had never taken it to heart. This time, for some reason, he began to investigate this matter after returning. However, this made him feel at ease. As a cultivator, it was best to cultivate peacefully, but he also had to be careful of the people around him. You may leave. Bai Qingli said, don't tell anyone about this and don't let anyone discover any clues. Yes. The next day, Bai Luchuan looked at the points on his identity card and immediately revealed a look of joy. After paying such a high price, I finally caught up with the points of the first place. I wonder if the points of the first place increased after we left yesterday? Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Liuchuan's points and said with a smile, Brother Bai, your current points are already a few thousand points higher than yesterday's first place. Even if that guy's strength is not bad, it's impossible for him to get so many points in a day. Bai Luchuan revealed a comfortable smile. That's right. It's impossible for that fellow to increase his points by so much. First place will definitely be mine. I'll congratulate Big Brother Bai first. Yun Xiaoman happily said. Chapter 66-51. Looking at Bai Liuchuan's concerned look, Yun Xiaoman's cheeks flushed red. She said with a smile, Brother Bai, I know you've always been a person who values relationships and righteousness. With you around, I'm relieved. Hearing this, Bai Luchuan gave Yun Xiaoman a deep look. The smile in his eyes deepened. Don't worry. Follow me when we return. I'll take good care of you. Thank you, Brother Bai, Yun Xiaoman said with a smile. As it was getting closer and closer to noon, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also returned to the ranking list. Seeing that Bai Luchuan had jumped to second place on the list, a hint of understanding appeared in everyone's eyes. Bai Luchuan probably thought that our points wouldn't increase by much, so he kept calculating according to the previous points. He didn't expect me to take all of Zhong Yiluan's points. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. If Bai Luchuan knew that all the points he had painstakingly accumulated had landed in her hands, his expression would definitely be very interesting. She was also looking forward to it. It's about time. Let's divide the points. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the points above. She didn't need to say anything else, but the first 3 places were a must. Little Xuanzi and Little Blossom directly handed over all their points. Anyway, we can only see the top 10. As long as you can take all of these rankings, that would be excellent. Yes. I'll hand over my points too. Gong Jun also handed over his identity card. Anyway, these points are useless to me. Hearing this, no one was pretentious. After all, they were all together. When they received the cultivation resources, they would distribute them. Look, the rankings suddenly changed. Why did the top 10 suddenly become numbered? It wasn't easy for Bai Luchuan to become second place. In the blink of an eye, he became outside of the top 10. Isn't this too shocking? The sudden change attracted everyone's attention. Such a huge change happened before the end of the competition, and it directly squeezed Bai Luchuan and company down. This was something no one had expected. Everyone looked at each other and understood that these points were definitely not obtained by them. However, this kind of thing happened almost every time, so everyone was well aware of it. Such a method might seem simple, but it was practically impossible to accomplish. Even after thinking through the entire Xiun city, they couldn't think of anyone who could do such a thing. Even Bai Luchuan had been defeated. Who else could do it? Bai Luchuan excitedly walked to the front of the ranking board. He realized that from the moment he appeared, everyone was looking at him strangely. He couldn't help but find it amusing. Come to think of it, it must be because he had taken first place, so everyone was surprised. It only took one night to catch up with such a big gap, so it was natural for everyone to have such a reaction. Young master, the ranking board. At that moment, the man beside Bai Luchuan immediately widened his eyes when he noticed the change in the rankings. His face was filled with horror. They had only been away for a day. What had happened? Chapter 66-52. Brother Bai, there must be a problem with the ranking list. Otherwise, how could it become like this? Yun Xiaoman looked at the ranking list in disbelief. In just a short day, Brother Bai's points had clearly increased by a lot, but now he wasn't even in the top 10? She had also observed the points on the ranking list. Other than the first and second place having high points, the others' points were about the same. It was normal for there to be changes. However, with Brother Bai's points, it was impossible for him to suddenly disappear from the top 10. This is impossible. Bai Luchuan couldn't help but rub his eyes. When he looked at the ranking list again, he realized that there was still no change. It was all serial numbers and his name wasn't there at all. Look, Bai Luchuan is here. Judging from his expression, he probably doesn't believe that all of this is true, right? It's obvious. He was already second place before, but he suddenly became outside the top 10. If this result is confirmed, then he will lose a lot of face this time. The competition is about to end. I think it's almost impossible for him to change all of this. Bai Luchuan's expression was extremely ugly to begin with. After hearing the discussions around him, his expression turned even uglier. These damn fellows actually dared to ridicule him now? Young master, what should we do now? Bai Luchuan looked at his points and compared them to the points on the ranking list. He said angrily, find someone with very high points. It's best if he's in the top 10. As long as we add his points, it should be enough. Young master, any cultivator who can obtain such a ranking is quite powerful. It's very difficult to bribe them, the man said awkwardly. I know it's very difficult, but is there any other way? Bai Luchuan cursed. No matter what conditions the other party proposes, as long as they don't exceed what I can bear, I'll agree to them. Hearing this, the man's expression became even more troubled. Young master, in order to buy these points, we have already given out all the resources we can use. If we still do this now, then the remaining resources won't be enough. Even if you obtain the reward for first place, you will still suffer a heavy loss. Bai Luchuan's heart skipped a beat. He also understood that he had already paid too much for this demon-slaying competition. Just to obtain these points yesterday, the price he had paid was astonishing. If he wanted to make up for such a gap, he could imagine the price he had to pay. So what if we suffered heavy losses? At the very least, he would be able to gain some reputation. But if we give up just like that, then all our previous efforts will have been for naught. Hearing Bai Luchuan's roar, a look of panic appeared on the man's face. He nodded repeatedly and said, all right, I'll go now. I'll go now. Look, the city lord is here. Bai Qingli is also here. Looking at his appearance, his injuries should have already recovered. It's a pity that Bai Qingli withdrew from the competition. Otherwise the rankings wouldn't be like this. City Lord Bai Ziyuan walked over with Bai Qingli, and the originally noisy environment suddenly quieted down. Gazes of respect fell on the two of them. When Bai Luchuan saw Bai Ziyuan appear, he restrained his previous temper. He respectfully walked to Bai Ziyuan's side and bowed. Greetings, uncle. Chapter 66-53. Upon hearing Bai Ziyuan's concerned question, Bai Luchuan's expression turned extremely ugly. He looked like he was in a difficult position, as though he found it difficult to speak. Uncle, the situation this time is really a little strange. Bai Ziyuan slowly walked forward. The situation on the ranking board fell into his eyes. At that instant, even he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. He had always paid attention to the situation on the ranking board, but he had always heard that Bai Luchuan's name was firmly in the top 10. He never expected it to disappear. There's nothing strange about that. Perhaps the cultivators this time are very strong, Bai Qingli said slowly. Bai Luchuan looked at Bai Qingli in surprise and said, Brother, you can't say that. Look, all of them are cultivators using numbered identity cards. We know very well what the situation was in the past. It's too strange for such a situation to suddenly happen. Perhaps they didn't have enough time, so they received such identity cards. Since such a situation is usually allowed, this isn't considered a violation. Bai Qingli's expression was calm. Nowadays, cultivators are getting stronger and stronger. I've also realized this. There's really no limit to how strong one can be. Looking at Bai Qingli's sigh, Bai Luchuan cursed inwardly for being an idiot. This fellow had always only paid attention to his cultivation. He had never been sad about anything else. In such a situation, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that there was a problem, but he didn't care about it. It was no different from playing the lute to a cow. The ranking this time is indeed a little strange. Bai Ziyuan sized up the ranking board. There's actually no one familiar in the top 10. I'm very curious as to who these cultivators who use numbered identity cards are. Uncle, I suspect that these people are from other cities. They want to use this opportunity to obtain cultivation resources. Wouldn't it be a pity if they succeed? Bai Luchuan said indignantly. Bai Ziyuan was very indifferent. This demon-slaying competition is a competition held in every city. It's not against the rules for any cultivator to participate. When the rewards are distributed later, I'll be able to understand those youths when I see them. As long as their strength doesn't exceed the limit by too much, it's within the range. Upon hearing that, no matter how indignant Bai Luchuan was, he could only swallow all of this. Damn it. He had to figure out who these people were. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Bai Qingli. She did not expect to see him again so soon. Bai Qingli also looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang, a smile appearing on his face as he nodded towards the woman in the distance. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose slightly as she nodded her head. Bai Ziyuan had already slowly walked towards the high platform. When Bai Luchuan noticed Bai Qingli nodding at Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't help but frown. Big brother, do you know that woman? Bai Qingli raised her eyebrows and asked indifferently, is there a problem? Don't be fooled by that woman's appearance. She is indeed a peerless beauty, but she is a poisonous poppy. The real person is not easy to get along with. A hint of viciousness appeared in Bai Luchuan's eyes. Her true identity is a poison master. One of my friends died at their hands. So that's how it is. She is actually a poison master? Chapter 66-54. However, brother, how do you know her? Bai Luchuan asked tentatively. According to his understanding, his brother had always been in seclusion. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have had the chance to come into contact with Bailey Hongzhuang. I just met her once when I participated in the competition, Bai Qingli said indifferently. So that's how it is. Bai Luchuan was secretly alarmed. Bailey Hongzhuang and he were mortal enemies. She couldn't have secretly said something to Bai Qingli, right? Did she say anything to you? This woman isn't simple. Guanyi died at her hands. I heard that her methods of sowing discord are also very impressive. Brother, you mustn't believe what she says. Bai Luchuan had a sincere look on his face. He looked like a sincere subordinate who was only worried that his brother would be in danger. If it was before the investigation, Bai Qingli might have really believed it. However, now that he knew Bai Luchuan's true colors, the more he said it, the more it meant that there was a problem with him. She didn't say anything. It was just a one-time encounter. She doesn't even know who I am. Seeing Bai Qingli's calm appearance, Bai Luchuan was relieved. From the looks of it, his brother probably didn't know anything. Brother, the results are about to be announced. You should go to the platform as well. All right. After Bai Qingli left, the man who followed Bai Luchuan walked over and said, Young master, it's already too late. What should we do? There's only one way left. Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes. These people's points increased so much on the last day. It's obvious that they didn't obtain the points themselves. When the time comes, I'll raise this doubt. No matter what, I have to make everyone doubt this result. Only then would everyone not be disappointed by his results and not use this point to make an issue out of it in the future. Go find a few people and get them to spread the news of fake points. Be careful not to be discovered. Don't worry, young master. I'll definitely settle this matter properly. As City Lord Bai Ziyuan stood on the high platform, everyone present quieted down. The annual Demon Slaughter competition has ended. The demons in the Demon Slaughter mountain range have been suppressed. Regardless of the results of everyone present, all of you have contributed to Cloud City. Pop-pong loud applause resounded in all directions. Everyone's eyes were filled with respect and admiration as they looked at the noble and imposing figure on the stage. I believe everyone has already noticed that the top 10 this time are very special. They are all numbered. Everyone chuckled when they heard that. They didn't even know who these people were. No matter what, I have to congratulate the top 10 cultivators who used numbers to replace their identities. You have won the top 10 of the Demon Slaughter competition and will be rewarded by the City Lord's mansion. Next, let's invite number 001002003004, 10 cultivators onto the high platform so that everyone can see your true faces. Bai Ziyuan read out the 10 numbers with great interest. Even he felt that these people must be related to each other. Otherwise these numbers were too coincidental. Following Bai Ziyuan's words, almost everyone looked around wanting to know who the top 10 were. Chapter 6655. Di Baichen and the others looked at each other and smiled. Then they slowly walked towards the high platform. In this situation where almost everyone stopped moving, the movements of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were immediately noticed by everyone. For a moment, one thought after another appeared in everyone's minds. Could it be that the people on the ranking list are them? This Bailey Hongzhuang is from our Shiyun city and not from other cities. I heard that because of Guan Yi, Bailey Hongzhuang offended by Lu Chuan and was directly driven away on the day of receiving the identity card. She must have had no choice but to take the numbered identity card. The moment everyone saw Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, all the doubts in their hearts dissipated. This grudge caused quite a stir in the city. After all, shopkeeper Guan had previously invited all the pharmacists in the city away. This matter caused an uproar and made everyone understand that this seemingly young Bailey Hongzhuang's poisoning method was not simple. All the pharmacists in the city were unable to solve it, which meant that once they offended her, it was equivalent to a dead end. Previously in the Demon Slaughtering Mountain Range, everyone clearly saw the conflict between Bai Luchuan and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of helpers, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen would have fallen by now. After seeing this scene, Yun Xiaoman's eyes also changed and her face instantly became abnormally ugly. Brother Bai, could it be that the cultivators on the ranking list are really them? How could these guys have such ability? Bai Liuchuan's face was ashen. He couldn't believe that this was true. Although their strength is not bad, they have just arrived in Shiyun City and their methods are not outstanding. It is impossible for them to obtain so many points. Hearing this, Yun Xiaoman's gaze was somewhat complicated. She also didn't want to believe that all this was true. However, all these doubts and certainty became a joke when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stepped onto the stage. A trace of surprise flashed across Bai Ziyuan's brows, and then a smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect that the top 10 on the ranking list this time are all unfamiliar faces and so young. My Shiyun city is indeed full of talents. Thank you for your praise, Mayor. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others cupped their hands and bowed. Whether it was when they first met at the start of the competition or now, the city lord's attitude made them feel very comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Bai Ziyuan. It turned out that the city lord's personality was more like Bai Qingli's and not like Bai Liuchuan's scheming. This was somewhat unexpected. Being able to achieve such results at such a young age is enough to prove that you are favored by the heavens. However, before I reward you, I still have to ask you a question. Mayor, please ask. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked more serious. Are you from Shiyun City? Reporting to the city lord, we are indeed from Shiyun City. Bai Ziyuan nodded slightly. If that's the case, why are you using such an identity card? It's not impossible to use a numbered identity card. It's just that receiving an identity card is a very easy matter. Today's situation has never happened in my Shiyun City. It's really too absurd? Chapter 6656. Shiyun City was the closest city to the abandoned immortal forest. The cultivators who came here were often not strong enough. The closer a city was to the immortal region, the stronger the cultivators inside. He understood the strength of Shiyun City and did not take it to heart. After all, from the moment he became the city lord, he was already very clear about the situation in Shiyun City. Even so, he still hoped that more talented people would appear. Every year's demon slaughter competition was an excellent opportunity to perform. In the past few years, some familiar faces would often appear in the top 10. It was very interesting that he had not seen any of the top 10 this year. If not for the numbered identity card, he would have been even happier. As Bai Ziyuan's voice fell, the gazes of everyone present became strange. Bai Luchuan could not help but feel anxious. He did not wish for Bailey Hongzhuang to expose this matter. If that happened, his image in his uncle's heart would definitely be greatly reduced. However, in the current situation, he could not stop it even if he wanted to. "City Lord, if I tell you the truth, I hope you won't be angry," Di Beichen said slowly. Hearing this, Bai Ziyuan revealed a faint smile. "There's no harm in saying it. Previously, when we were receiving the identity cards, we were judged to be unqualified. We had no choice but to use the numbered identity cards." Di Beichen's face was calm. Under everyone's gazes, he was not afraid at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others knew very well that if such words were said in private, the other party might be displeased. However, in front of so many people, even if he was displeased, he would definitely not show it. Bai Ziyuan gradually frowned. There was a trace of doubt in his deep eyes. "Unqualified? Why not? This is also what we want to know." Di Beichen's words without an answer seemed to have a deeper meaning. Even an idiot would know that there was definitely a problem. For a moment, everyone's gaze involuntarily fell on Bai Luchuan. Wasn't this done by Bai Luchuan? However, he would never have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would obtain first place. Furthermore, he had even mentioned this matter in front of the city lord. Bai Ziyuan noticed everyone's gaze and his eyes gradually darkened. However, a smile appeared on his face again. "When I return, I will definitely investigate this matter and give everyone an explanation." "Thank you, city lord." Bai Liuchuan's heart trembled when he noticed the city lord's gaze. He was afraid that this matter could not be concealed. He knew very well that his uncle had always valued the demon slaughter competition and hated such actions. When he returned, he would definitely be punished. Since the biggest mystery has been solved, Bai Luchuan, Liuchuan's Bai Ziyuan, the city lord, and the city lord, the Luchuan. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile, her eyes unconsciously falling on Bai Qingli's body. This father and son both had such personalities, it was really rare. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, Bai Qingli returned the smile. This scene naturally did not escape Bai Ziyuan's eyes. When he realized that his son, who had always been cold and indifferent to others, was actually smiling at a woman, he was secretly surprised. What the hell is going on? Chapter 66-57. Just as Bai Ziyuan was about to award the reward, a voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. "No?" Everyone subconsciously looked at the source of the voice and realized that the person who had stopped him was Bai Luchuan. "Luchuan, what are you doing?" Bai Qingli looked at Bai Luchuan in puzzlement. "Do you know what time it is?" Although Bai Ziyuan didn't say a word, his face revealed his displeasure. "I know what time it is. It's precisely because of this that I want to take advantage of this opportunity to stop all of this." A determined look appeared in Bai Liuchuan's eyes as he steadily walked up the platform. "City Lord, this ranking is suspected of cheating. If we don't investigate this matter thoroughly, I'm afraid no one will be able to accept it." As soon as these words were said, many cultivators below the platform echoed. "That's right. These points are clearly fake. How can we give the rewards to these cheaters? If we can obtain first place by cheating, then we can all cheat in the future. Why waste so much time? We must investigate this matter thoroughly and give everyone justice." Yun Xiaoman and company were also mixed in with the crowd. They had already arranged for many people to spread such rumors. Furthermore, the sudden change in the points of Bailey Hongzhuang and company had already attracted the attention of many people. Everyone knew very well that there was definitely something wrong with the points. Now that it was mentioned, it naturally attracted a lot of attention. "Damn it, this fellow really knows how to cause trouble." Xiren narrowed his eyes, which were filled with disgust. Originally, this matter had happened unexpectedly smoothly. He had thought that they were lucky to have met a good city lord, but he never expected Bai Luchuan to be such a restless fellow. Even now, he still refused to give up. Bai Ziyuan put down his hand that was about to take the reward and his gaze landed on Bai Luchuan. "What do you mean by that?" "City lord, just a day ago my name and 2 other people's names were still on the ranking list. I was even ranked second. However, in just a short day so many people have directly surpassed my points and occupied all the top 10 positions. Isn't this too strange?" Bai Luchuan recounted the previous situation. He had long made up his mind. Even if he said that, he might not be able to change the outcome. However, as long as he could make the outcome suspicious, it was enough. As a result, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would inevitably end up with an unjustified result, and they would also lose face. After hearing Bai Liuchuan's words, Bai Ziyuan turned his gaze to his subordinate. His subordinate also whispered a few words into his ear. His expression gradually turned solemn. City Lord, there is indeed a problem with the rankings this time. I hope you can make a decision. We absolutely cannot accept such an outcome. Wave after wave of voices rang out. When Bai Liuchuan noticed Bai Ziyuan's expression, he knew that there was a chance. He spoke even more impolitely. City Lord, if it weren't for their tricks, my points would definitely be first. Bai Liuchuan said. He was already number 2. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were defeated, he would be the undisputed number 1. Chapter 66-58. After pondering for a moment, Bai Ziyuan turned his gaze to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. What explanation do you have for the point that everyone is objecting to? Although it was an inquiring tone, there was a hint of seriousness in it compared to before. The City Lord's aura was completely revealed. The atmosphere in the entire venue seemed to have frozen. Even the people who were still discussing below the stage shut their mouths and didn't dare to say anything else. However, in the face of Bai Ziyuan's words, Di Beichen remained indifferent, as if he didn't notice the seriousness in it at all. There must be a reason for everything that exists. There are more than 1 or 2 people who cheat in this point competition. There should be many people present who do the same. As Di Beichen's words fell, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Under such circumstances, anyone would think of a way to cover it up or explain it, right? Di Beichen, on the other hand, suddenly said such words. Wasn't that equivalent to directly admitting it? Bai Liuchuan also looked at Di Beichen in surprise. Apart from being surprised, he was also happy. This fellow was really an idiot. Originally, he couldn't produce conclusive evidence, but now this fellow had directly admitted it. In this way, everything she said became irrefutable evidence. Bai Ziyuan's expression also darkened, and his voice became deeper. In that case, you admit that your points were obtained by cheating? Di Beichen smiled faintly. Doesn't the City Lord think that this is also a kind of strength? What a fallacy. Bai Liuchuan sneered. I think you're completely talking nonsense. How can you say that cheating is so natural? Looking at Bai Liuchuan's smug and self-proclaimed righteous appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a trace of a sneer. This fellow's ability to make a false accusation was simply astonishing. Young Master Bai, this is only our first time participating in the demon slaying competition. We learned the method of cheating from you. Isn't it too funny to put on such a sanctimonious appearance now? Bai Liuchuan's expression changed. What nonsense are you talking about? Since young Master Bai has taken the initiative to reveal this matter today, I don't mind explaining it more clearly. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. They had originally come for the rewards of the demon-slaying competition, but for some reason she felt that it was more interesting to expose Bai Liuchuan's true colors in front of everyone. When we first entered the demon-slaying mountain range, we were forcefully pulled to join the team. According to them, they specially participated in the demon-slaying competition for you, Bai. Every year, the points they earn will be handed over to you, and you will give them a certain amount of remuneration. You're full of nonsense. Just because you were exposed, you put all the blame on me? How shameless. Bai Liuchuan's face was ashen as he loudly questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you have any evidence for everything you said? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. What I said is the truth. What evidence do I need? I believe that with the City Lord's means, it won't be difficult to find out all of this. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-like eyes turned slightly as she looked at Bai Ziyuan with a smile. It was time for Bai Liuchuan to take off the mask he had been wearing for so long. City Lord, everything she said is not true. I don't need to do this at all, Bai Liuchuan hurriedly said. Chapter 66-59. Bai Ziyuan's calm gaze swept across Bai Liuchuan's face. The latter immediately felt a chill in his heart as the ominous premonition intensified. He was already extremely regretful. If he had known that this would happen, he would have killed Bailey Hongzhuang and company no matter the price he had to pay. If Bailey Hongzhuang had angrily accused him, it might not have shaken his uncle's trust in him. But she was so indifferent. Everything was irrefutable. On the contrary, it was even more convincing. However, the most important thing now was to get rid of all of this. As for the rest, he would speed up the process when he returned. As long as he could shut those fellows up, he might be able to avoid this calamity. Qingli, what do you think? Bai Ziyuan turned his head to look at Bai Qingli. His stern expression softened a little. Bai Qingli looked at the anxious Bai Luchuan and the calm Bailey Hongzhuang and company and slowly said, Father, I think what this young master said is not without reason. No matter what method they used, being able to obtain first place in this point competition is a form of strength. Otherwise, why would they be the only one to obtain first place out of all the people present? Brother, how can you say that? Bai Luchuan looked at Bai Qingli in astonishment. He never expected him to say such a thing. Luchuan, what I said is the truth. What's the problem? But brother, the points you obtained in the past were all obtained by yourself. You have never used any other method. If they do this, it's unfair to you. Bai Qingli smiled faintly and shook his head. The reason I did this is because of my own choice. I also know that others will use other methods to obtain points. In the end, this is a method to obtain points. Everyone uses different methods. Looking at Bai Qingli's calm appearance, Bai Luchuan felt a mouthful of blood in his heart. No matter what happened, his brother would always have an indifferent look. It was simply infuriating. Let's not talk about anything else. Such a situation will indeed happen in this competition. However, they have gone too far this time. This will make everyone unhappy, Bai Luchuan said. At this moment, another man stood up and said, City Lord, their points are too fake. This will chill our hearts. I hope the City Lord can judge clearly. I hope the City Lord can judge clearly. The City Lord is wise. In an instant, everyone present began to shout out loud. Their momentum was so great that it was as if they would not accept the City Lord's decision if he did not change the outcome. This was the first time that such a situation had happened in the history of the demon slaughter competition. Bai Ziyuan looked at the extremely chaotic scene, but his calm expression was not affected by it. It was as if the protest in front of him did not exist. His heartbeat was as still as water. Was admirable. Everyone please calm down. A low and majestic voice sounded, instantly suppressing the voices of protest. Luchuan. Bai Ziyuan smiled faintly. If that's the case, we can only recalculate the points. The moment that was said, Bai Luchuan and company revealed looks of puzzlement. They didn't understand what he meant. Chapter 6660. Hold a new demon slaughter competition. When this thought appeared in everyone's minds, they couldn't help but frown. After this, everyone was already physically and mentally exhausted. Even though their cultivation wasn't weak, dealing with these monsters in this environment where dark energy lingered all day was really unpleasant. Moreover, many of the monsters had already been dealt with. Once they started again, they would definitely have to go deeper. At that time, the injuries on their bodies would probably worsen again. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but feel even more depressed. This result wasn't what they wanted. At this moment, the City Lord's calm voice sounded again. I've already heard that there's a problem with the points in this demon slaughter competition, so I've already thought of a way to recalculate the points. Any points that aren't obtained by oneself will be directly deducted. In this way, everyone's points will be the real points obtained by oneself. As the City Lord's voice fell, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. No one had expected that the City Lord had already thought of a way to deal with it. If they hadn't mentioned it, who knew what the outcome would have been? When Bai Luchuan heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. He had never thought that the City Lord would make such a preparation. This method. He had never heard the City Lord mention it before. When did he prepare this? According to his original intention, he only wanted to question the results this time and make the reputation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others unstable. However, once all the points were recalculated, there was no need to mention the fake points of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but what about his points? Brother Bai, if we recalculate then your points? Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Luchuan worriedly. Ever since Guan Yi's death, she had been following Bai Luchuan, so she knew his points very well. Even though he had also obtained a lot of points, the points that he had collected were also quite a lot. Bai Luchuan's expression also became extremely ugly. When he thought of his previous threat, he felt as if a slap had landed on his face. It was burning with pain. City Lord, is what you said true? In the crowd, a question could not help but sound out. Bai Ziyuan laughed heartily. Of course it's true. From now on, the demon slaughter competition will be fairer. All methods will be eliminated. The points can only belong to the cultivators themselves. All of a sudden, cheers came from the crowd. In Xi'an City, there were very few cultivators with power and influence like Bai Luchuan. They could only rely on their own strength. Under such circumstances, they were completely incomparable to Bai Luchuan and company. However, with the change of the points rules, it meant that they would have a day of success. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but fall on Bai Qingli's body. She had a feeling that this method should be proposed by Bai Qingli. It had been a while since he withdrew from the demon-slaying competition, and he expected that Xiao Hei's words had undoubtedly made him suspicious of Bai Luchuan. Once he used this method, all of his tricks would be exposed. It was indeed a good plan. What a pity. Originally, the top 10 rewards would have been ours. Chapter 66-61. Actually, there's nothing to pity. I feel that even if Di Beichen and company were to remove the other points, the results would definitely not be bad. Shengguan Yingying had a look of confidence. It was indeed difficult to calculate the points on the rankings. However, based on the previous situation, even if they were to remove these points, there would still be quite a number of them on the rankings. Zhong Limu said in high spirits, "I think this is quite good. Otherwise, Bai Luchuan will inevitably find trouble with us. Why don't we let him lose wholeheartedly?" Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "I also want to know what our true ranking will be." Bai Qingli also stood up. His handsome and elegant face had a faint smile like a breeze. "We originally wanted to ask for everyone's opinion on this matter. We happened to realize that everyone had many questions about this, so we took this opportunity to reform it. We will continue to implement it in the future." Everyone nodded. This was the most fair and just decision. No one would object. Bai Luchuan couldn't help but feel anxious. When he thought of what he had said previously, he really wished he could slap himself to death. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have said such words no matter what. However, under everyone's watchful eyes, he couldn't find any other way to change it even if he wanted to. "Brother, can I not change my points?" Bai Luchuan sent a voice transmission to Bai Qingli. Bai Qingli was the only one who could save him from his predicament. Di Beichen and company aren't good people. Because they cheated, I couldn't take it lying down, so I bought some points. If I'm exposed in front of everyone, then I'll lose all my face. Seeing Bai Liuchuan's anxious look for help, Bai Qingli remained calm and collected. She looked cultured and elegant, and her tone was filled with sincerity. "Luchuan, since this matter was pushed by father, if everyone changes except you, once it's discovered, where will father's face go?" "Brother?" Bai Luchuan was somewhat anxious. This brother of his couldn't be reasoned with no matter what. It was simply infuriating. There's no need to say anything else. It definitely won't work this time. Bai Qingli rejected him without hesitation. "Luchuan, your strength has always been outstanding. Even if the matter of points is investigated, you should believe in your own strength." Upon hearing this, Bai Luchuan shut his mouth. Thinking about it carefully, what his brother said made sense. "Brother Bai, I don't think you need to worry. Even if the matter of buying points is exposed, you can completely blame it on Di Beichen and company. You've been doing your best to kill monsters during the competition. I believe that even after deducting your points, you're still worthy of being first place." Bai Liuchuan's gaze turned gentle. "You're right, Bai Qingli." The people of the city lord's mansion quickly took back the identity tokens of each cultivator and began to recalculate the points. To Luchuan to Luchuan, Luchuan Luchuan to Luchuan Luchuan. Of course, Luchuan to Liuchuans of the Luchuan. Chapter 66-62. Bai Qingli gave Bailey Hongzhuang a deep look. His eyes were complicated and apologetic. "Miss, I'm really sorry for hiding my identity earlier." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her exquisite face became even more beautiful. "Sir Bai, you wanted to tell me your identity earlier, but I stopped you. To be honest, you didn't mean to hide it." Bai Qingli saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even have the slightest idea about this, and her heart felt even more guilty. Compared to the other party's magnanimity as a man, he wasn't magnanimous enough. "This matter is indeed my responsibility. However, what you said at that time had quite an impact on me. Coupled with the fact that I was being pursued, I didn't say it out loud. I'm grateful to you for saving my life from the bottom of my heart. I wonder if you regret saving me?" After much deliberation, Bai Qingli still asked the question in his heart. He clearly remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang had said that she didn't want him to be Bai Qingli, but he was. I should have said earlier that I don't regret saving you. Although your identity is somewhat unexpected, I don't think you and Bai Luchuan are the same kind of people. He is him and you are you. There's no connection between them, so you don't have to take it to heart. If I really cared, I wouldn't have greeted you when I first saw you. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was casual, and there was a trace of openness in her eyes. She really admired Bai Qingli and she knew very well that he was different from Bai Luchuan. There was no need to mix them up. The troubles in Bai Qingli's heart quickly dissipated with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and the smile on his face also brightened. I didn't expect you to think so thoroughly. In comparison, I'm the one who's too narrow-minded. No matter what, I'm still very happy to meet you. Me too. Apart from Di Baichen and Gong Jun, when Xiren and the others couldn't help but be surprised when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang chatting happily with the city lord's son. When did Hongzhuang get to know Bai Qingli? I don't know. I've never heard her mention it before. She actually saved his life? Bailey Yunyan's eyes widened. Bai Luchuan and Bai Qingli. Isn't this interesting? Di Xiaofeng and the others couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Originally, they thought that after offending Bai Luchuan, it was equivalent to offending the city lord's mansion. Now, after offending Bai Luchuan, they saved Bai Qingli. It seemed like the situation had changed. Madam is really a lucky star. Gong Jun smiled. I think there's no need to be afraid of Bai Luchuan now. Smiles appeared on everyone's faces. They never thought that things would take such a turn in the end. It was really interesting. Even if Bai Qingli had an excellent relationship with Bai Luchuan, it was impossible for her to watch her younger brother target his savior. One was his son and the other was his nephew. There was no comparison between the two. After the points were recalculated, the rankings changed. Every cultivator's points appeared on the ranking board, but the rankings disappeared. Every time a cultivator's points changed, it would appear on it. With this, everyone realized that there were quite a few people who had faked their points. Chapter 66-63. At that moment, a name suddenly appeared above. When they saw the change in the name's points, everyone's expressions immediately turned interesting. Look, Bai Luchuan actually has so many points that aren't his own. Isn't that too funny? He previously said that Bailey Hongzhuang and company's points were fake, as though his points were real. Almost half of his points were fake. What a joke. Actually, Bai Luchuan has always cheated in this aspect. It's just that no one has exposed him in the past. This time he probably didn't expect that someone would be even more excessive than him on this point. That's why he jumped out, but he never expected to lose himself. Do you still remember what that woman said earlier? They were captured by Liuchuan's men to earn points. The reason why such a situation happened later on might be to take revenge on Bai Luchuan? Everyone discussed animatedly. Recalling how Bailey Hongzhuang and company were completely indifferent towards Bai Luchuan, they felt that it was very likely the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the change in Bai Liuchuan's points and a playful look appeared in her eyes. This fellow's points really weren't that high. Ignoring everything else, with this exposure, Bai Luchuan was already very odd in everyone's eyes. Damn woman. Bai Luchuan looked viciously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't be smug. It will be a real joke when your points are out later. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged indifferently. Let's wait and see. Bai Luchuan snorted coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude made him even angrier. If these fellows weren't resolved as soon as possible, there would be endless trouble. Young master, everyone's eyes. What should we do? The man behind Bai Luchuan wore a troubled look. Almost at the instant the points changed, everyone's eyes landed on them. They were clearly gloating over their misfortune. What's the big deal? Bai Liuchuan's expression turned cold. When the results are out, my results will definitely be top. When that happens, they will shut up. All these years he had always been suppressed by Bai Qingli. Now that Bai Qingli was not here, he believed that he would be able to take first place by himself. The man beside him looked at the confident Bai Luchuan with a complicated expression. He knew very well his young master's results over the years. In the past, young noble had always been ranked second, but that was because of the points they had collected. Once these points were no longer counted, young noble would not have such a good ranking. However, looking at the young master beside him who didn't allow him to comment, he could only shut his mouth. Otherwise, if he made the young master unhappy at this time, he would only be the unlucky one. As the cultivators recalculated their points one by one, the city lord's mansion had quite a number of people to begin with, and their collective speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, everything had been recalculated. The points of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also the focus of everyone's attention. The change in their points was indeed a lot less than before. Even so, everyone looked at them with a strange look in their eyes. Unlike their contempt for Bai Luchuan, there was a hint of surprise. It was as if they hadn't expected them to have such results. Chapter 66-64. Now that the recalculated ranking is out, this is the fairest ranking. Everyone can be completely at ease. Bai Ziyuan waved his hand, and a layer of light flashed on the ranking board. Following that, a brand new ranking appeared in front of everyone's eyes. After seeing the ranking on the ranking board, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips gradually curled into a faint smile. My ranking has actually changed to third place. Shengguan Ying chuckled. Hongzhuang, you've gone from first place to third place. Why are you smiling so happily? So what? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She knew in her heart that there was bound to be a gap between her points. In order to save Bai Qingli, she had wasted several days. If it wasn't for the fact that the demon she killed in the end had brought her a lot of points, it was hard to say if she would have been able to enter the top 10. Young master, your name has also appeared on the ranking board. When the man saw Bai Liuchuan's name appear on the ranking board, his face immediately revealed a joyful smile. Bai Luchuan stared blankly at the name on the ranking board, his expression extremely ugly. This is impossible. Yun Xiaoman also looked at the changing rankings in shock. How could their rankings still be so high? On the ranking board, the first place was Di Beichen, the second place was Mo Yunjue, the third place was Bailey Hongzhuang, and the fourth place was Zhongli Mu. However, the fifth place was still not Bai Luchuan, but a cultivator who had previously appeared on the ranking board. The sixth place was Di Xiaofeng, and the seventh place was another unknown man. He knew that the eighth place was Bai Luchuan. Such a ranking was undoubtedly a ruthless slap to Bai Liuchuan's face. I remember hearing young Master Bai say that as long as the points are recalculated, you will definitely be first place? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Now it seems that this result is really hard to describe. Her cold voice carried a hint of playfulness, and it could be said that she was not polite at all. I already knew that his strength wasn't good. Otherwise, why would he find so many people to help him accumulate points? Yet he still wants to push all the problems onto others. This is the funniest part. Shengguan Ying curled her lips, her eyes full of disdain. I didn't expect Bai Luchuan to be the one with the most fake points. Then, didn't that mean that his points in the previous demon-slaying competition were all fake? It was unknown who suddenly mentioned it, but everyone suddenly understood. In the past, Bai Luchuan had always been in second place, but this time he had forcefully become ninth place. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not been here before, it was obvious that the second place was not his true strength. Bai Ziyuan looked at Bai Luchuan with a complicated gaze. He never expected the usually honest Bai Luchuan to do so many things. Previously, when Qingli came back and suddenly mentioned the recalculation of the points, he felt a little strange. He knew his son very well. Usually he would not care about such things at all. And he was being hunted down in the demon-slaughtering mountain range. When he connected all these things together, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. No way, no way. Bai Luchuan looked at the blinding name on the ranking board and shouted, something must have gone wrong during the recalculation. This can't be my ranking. Chapter 66-65. Luchuan, it's not a bad thing to face your own strength, Bai Ziyuan said meaningfully before turning his gaze to the crowd. Congratulations to the top 10. Strength is strength. There's no room for deception. Bai Ziyuan's words smashed heavily into Bai Liuchuan's heart. In an instant his face turned pale. How could he not understand that his uncle was beating him up? The matter of the points had already been exposed. If he could obtain first place, it would be fine and cover up this matter. But now, with such a ranking, it was truly a joke. Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Luchuan worriedly. She opened her mouth but didn't say anything in the end. In the current situation, no matter what she said, she wouldn't be able to comfort Bai Luchuan. The following reward ceremony went very smoothly. When Bai Ziyuan handed over the reward for first place to Di Beichen, he suddenly said, "You're right. This is a part of strength." Di Beichen smiled faintly. "Thank you, City Lord." Bai Luchuan didn't accept the reward. Instead, he disappeared from everyone's sight. The so-called 8th place wasn't a reward for him at all. It was a humiliation. He wasn't willing to accept the reward that made him feel humiliated, nor was he willing to admit that he was in 8th place. This wasn't his true strength at all. Bai Ziyuan and Bai Qingli didn't say anything about this. In the end, Bai Luchuan was too willful. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the reward in her hand and couldn't help but laugh. "Gongjun, you're right. The City Lord's mansion is very generous. This reward is very generous." Of course. Gongjun had a smug look on his face. Every year, who knows how many people are eyeing the City Lord's mansion's rewards. With these rewards, there's even a glimmer of hope for breaking through to the elementary immortal realm. The City Lord's mansion actually has so many cultivation resources? Di Xiaofeng looked at the reward in his hand. Although his ranking wasn't high, the reward was very useful. Gongjun nodded. "Let me tell you, being a City Lord is a good job. There are so many shops in Xi'an City, and every shop has to hand over a certain amount of things to the City Lord's mansion. Think about it. Isn't the City Lord's mansion very generous?" Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. They didn't expect the City Lord to have such good benefits. Under such circumstances, the resources of the City Lord's mansion could be imagined. "Boss, you're so powerful. If you have the chance to become a City Lord, that would be great." Di Beichen and the others chuckled when they heard that. How could it be so easy to become a City Lord? There are quite a few cultivation resources rewarded this time. I will go back and refine these medicinal herbs into medicinal pills before handing them over to you. Bailey Hongzhuang put away the heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the reward. Apart from that, there were also some weapons and runes. Everyone could make their own arrangements as they saw fit. Of course. "Hongzhuang, your alchemy skills have always been amazing. It's most appropriate to hand these medicinal herbs over to you," Bailey Yunyan said with a smile. "Don't worry, I will refine them as soon as possible. I'm afraid Bai Luchuan will cause trouble when he returns this time. Everyone has to be careful." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as dark as the night. Bai Luchuan had lost face because of them this time. He would definitely not let it go when he returned. It was inevitable that he would cause trouble. Everyone nodded with a solemn expression on their faces. Chapter 66-66. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to their residence, they rested for a few days. Because of the monster's self-destruction, they had not recovered from their injuries. They needed to recuperate well to avoid any lingering effects. Their physical fitness was very good now, and their recovery ability was also very strong. Therefore, after a few days of rest, their bodies had recovered to their original state. Bailey Hongzhuang made a list of the medicinal herbs she needed and gave it to Gongjun. She wanted to refine the medicinal herbs rewarded by the competition into elixirs. It was inevitable that she would lack some other medicinal herbs, so she had to leave it to Gongjun to solve. Gongjun opened the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and had a very close relationship with the medicinal herb shop. Therefore, he quickly brought all the medicinal herbs she needed. Looking at the medicinal herbs in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. "In addition to the medicinal herbs I need, you also brought a lot of medicinal herbs?" Gongjun rubbed his hands and smiled. "Madam, your alchemy skills have always been good. I have sold most of the elixirs you refined in the demon slaughtering mountain range. However, after I came back this time, I found that the business is unprecedentedly good. Everyone already knows that the elixirs you refine are better than ordinary elixirs, so our Immortal Treasure Pavilion has become their first choice. I have already sent people to collect elixirs from other alchemists, but I still need some elixirs you refine to support the scene. I hope you can help." "So, your business now is not worse than that of the Wanbao Pavilion?" Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She was very clear about the gap between the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and the Wanbao Pavilion. How could there be such a change in such a short time? "Isn't that so?" Gongjun's face was filled with pride. The proportion of cultivators participating in the monstrous slaughter competition in the city is very large. In the past, many people have never bought pills from me. After trying it this time, they understand how effective the pills you refine are. What's more, the price of our elixirs is not more expensive than that of the Wanbao Pavilion. If it weren't for the fact that we have fewer goods than the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, Guanhongtian wouldn't have been my match. Looking at Gong Jun's happy face, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and smiled. Gong Jun wholeheartedly wanted to improve the business of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Now that there was such progress, they were very satisfied. Since that's the case, I'll tell you once I've finished concocting the pill. Bailey Hongzhuang received the herbs. Through the herbs that Gong Jun brought, she could tell that he did not want the grade of the pill to be high. With her current alchemy skills, refining these pills didn't require much effort, so she just casually helped out. Thank you, madam, thank you, madam. Gong Jun's face was full of joy. His gaze then turned to Di Beichen. Boss, if you have nothing to do, you can also make a few of these formation stones. You don't leave out a single one. Di Beichen glanced at him. There was a hint of playfulness and helplessness in his voice. Boss, your formation stones are also selling very well. The Wanbao Pavilion has all kinds of elixirs, but one of the formation stones you made is actually not available in the Wanbao Pavilion. Gong Jun's eyes were full of excitement. You and madam are simply the signboards of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.